I was now trying to talk to the dragon Alduin resurrected, and I said, you don't have to do this, brother, it's not too late to do the right thing. And then Alduin spoke in his dragon language and he said, don't listen to Dovahkiin, he serves the humans. And I said, I serve Akatosh. And I continued talking in the dragon language to both dragons, and I said, I have only ever served the will of my father, my God, and his strength is in me, and I will prove it today if I must, and perhaps I will show you all what I am truly made of. And then I gave myself all the powers of the Green Hulk, and then I started to tower above Delphine. As she saw my true form, she was terrified and at the same time hopeful, and then I turned around and I spoke fluent English to Alduin, and I said, I will crush you, Alduin, if I have to. And then Alduin said in English, so be it. And then I spoke to the other dragon in the dragon language and I said, you don't have to do this. And then he said, I am sorry, Dovahkiin, but you're human and I don't trust you, I trust Alduin. And then I guess, well, it's time to show you both that not even the sky can save you from me. And then I began to levitate, and then I began to fly without wings. And then Alduin said, impossible, kill him now. And then I shouted, Alduin, you coward, face me. And then I said, your leader Alduin is a coward and hollow king, he is weak and fearful, I said in the dragon language, and today I will show you why. And then I shouted at Alduin using dragon rend, and then Alduin said no. And then the other dragon became terrified as he saw me punch Alduin in the chest really hard, caving it in with my massive green fist. And then Alduin flew away like a coward, and then I said, run, you coward, run. And then the other dragon asked me in English, what the hell are you, you abomination? And then I said, I am the ultimate weapon against all that is evil. And then the other dragon said, there's nothing in the legend about a green Dovahkiin. And then I said, well, you don't know the true legend, my powers come from our true God, not just what you have been taught. And then I punched the dragon in the chest, knocking him to the ground, and then I used my massive fists to shatter the skull of the resurrected dragon, and I continued beating on the dragon's head, delivering millions of tons of force in each strike, and the dragon could not withstand that kind of force from a being with immense strength and powers that scale infinitely with his anger. So when I punched the dragon, he didn't stand a chance against my immense power and strength, surpassing even Saitama. Not even a dragon hide could stand up against a Hulk with beyond Saitama level strength. And then the dragon died again, but this time permanently, and then I began absorbing his soul, and after I absorbed his soul I leveled up again, and I smiled warmly, and I opened up my player screen system menu, and it said, congratulations, you have leveled up to Infinity level 4, and you now have all the powers of the mightiest disciple Hayato Furinji, and you also have all the powers of Doomsday. And then I smiled big and said, cool. And then I transformed into Doomsday and I started using all the powers of Hayato Furinji, and I said, wow, he's stronger than I thought, and I don't even need my weapons anymore, but I still like using them all the same. And then I smiled when I saw the rest of my powers, and it said, congratulations, you have achieved legendary Super Saiyan Brawly form, and the Ultra Instinct can be stacked with legendary Super Saiyan and legendary Super Saiyan 4, and you have now unlocked all the strongest transformations. You can even use the Blue Hulk and Black Hulk forms. And then I smirked and said, I have already won. Alduin just doesn't know it yet. And then I transformed back into a regular man, and I put my armor back on top of my black stretching suit, and unlike the original Hulk, I can deactivate my powers anytime I want to, which means I completely control and command all the powers of the Hulk without all the negative drawbacks the Hulk had. And that also means that I can also have sex with any woman if I wanted to. And then Delphine walked up to me and she said, well, you don't see that every day now, you can ask me anything and I won't hold anything back. And then I asked her some questions, and then finally I was sent to the Thalmor embassy with the help of Wood Elf and Delphine. I got in without a problem, and then eventually I created a distraction using the old drunk Red Guard, whom I was actually fond of. When you meet him at the Thalmor embassy, you know, that guy that said, yes, I have my invitation, and no, I don't have a dagger strapped to my heel or poison in my pocket. He was pretty much the guy that was already sitting there when you showed up to the embassy entrance, and he said, arriving by carriage, I salute you, sir. Basically he said all of that, and it was very funny. Anyway, I used him to distract the Thalmor, and of course they didn't arrest him, but they do arrest Malborn the Wood Elf, and I managed to find the journals.